I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, Dolphin Song is a tale of love, loss, and hope, set in the beautiful landscapes of Ireland. Dawn McCarthy's life is literally turned upside down when her Irish husband drowns in a boating accident, and her son cannot speak again after the tragedy. The author of Dolphin Song is Tom Richards. We're delighted to have him here today on Spotlight. We ask those watching to please like and comment, and also to subscribe for more exclusive content. Tom, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Logan.
Loved your book. We're going to get into that book and a bunch of other books, but let's start out today with the big question. It's a question you pose on your book. Is it possible to love someone so completely they never die? What are your thoughts?
That's the premise there. And that tells it. Is it possible to love someone so completely they never die? And the answer to that is yes. In this novel, which is the reason why the book has done so well, is that it did go to #1 on Amazon last January, almost a year from now. I'm Catholic. A lot of people aren't. I'm Irish Catholic.
Same here.
And
so you're preaching to the choir, as they say.
Okay, well, in the Mass, we all say something like, we sort of say, do we believe in ghosts? Do you believe in the unseen or the seen? That's what's in the Apostles' Creed, which we say during Mass. And the answer to that for people of faith is yes. And I believe it. This book, and I won't turn to the page, in the dedication page, right here. This is dedicated to Carmel Murray and your faith in me, and Liam O'Neill, my friend. Starting with Liam first, Liam was the muse on this book. Many of you will not have heard of Liam O'Neill. He and I were born in Park Forest, Illinois, about a mile from each other. We had to move to Ireland to become friends, and then we became best friends. Liam helped me write this book, particularly the last incident. There are 3 dolphins in this, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there are 3 dolphins. There's Dawn and Michael and Jason, human beings that have turned into dolphins, much like the folklore of Ireland. The Selkies, I borrowed that from the Selkies, where people turn into, or seals turn into human beings and vice versa. And I borrowed it from the Greek. Liam died of COVID. Always happens. About 20 months ago. The feature film that we will be shooting next year, it will be greenlit. We've already begun raising the funding. The funding we require is $165 million. Wow. That's the production funding alone. Okay. I'm dedicating that to Liam, that film. Liam was the father of Irish film, and you know how well Irish film has done recently.
Yeah.
Right now, there are films up for the Academy Award. They've been nominated. Liam started that. He was one of the grandfathers, if you will, of Irish film. Okay. So that's why I'm going to dedicate the film to him. As I'm also going to dedicate the film to a lady by the name of Carmel Murray, who's my partner. Carmel is 59 years old, and she has early onset Alzheimer's. We've lived together for, well, almost 14 years. She doesn't even remember me. So in some ways, Carmel's gone too. Yeah. So they're both, if you will, like the Holy Spirit. In Catholicism, we believe in the Trinity, the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. If Liam was the Father and Carmel was the Holy Ghost, I'm their son. I hope that answers the question. Do I believe that I can love somebody so completely that they never die? Yeah. I like to think that they're both looking over the shoulder during this interview.
Absolutely. I'm all on board with that answer. In fact, there was a movie, I guess it's 20 years ago now, called Jillian on her 37th birthday. I don't know if you ever saw it.
No, I never
But it
did.
was about a man who loved his wife so much he met her every night in his dreams.
Yes, I
And
did see it. I did see that. Yes, I did.
yeah, and
Yeah.
everybody around him was jealous of the love that he had for Jillian, that he had to let her go. And he's like, why? Why do I have to let her go? And it was definitely a very, very poignant film and definitely provoked a lot of philosophical questions. Well, I'm delighted that Dolphin Song will become a movie because it is just fantastic. From the
May, may,
characters to the settings to the story that's so original. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful work.
may I point out a couple of other things about this? I feel that it sold so well. I mean, it sold hundreds of thousands of copies now in different formats all over the world, including India and the United States and Ireland and the UK and Australia and New Zealand. I just went on and on. And I think one of the reasons why is when a writer writes a novel or when a musician composes a symphony or Irish traditional music or plays the banjo, we're trying to engage people.
Yeah.
And so this is a contemporary story. So many people have lost faith. They've lost faith in their religions, in their priests or their vicars or, evangelical,
Yeah.
churches throughout
Yeah,
the
all the
world are
clergy,
losing their
rabbis,
congregation.
everyone's been touched by a loss of faith, unfortunately.
Yes, and they're losing faith in their politicians. That's one of the reasons why the United States is so divisive. We've all lost faith. Dolphin Song, I think, gives people a bit of hope.
Mm.
It's not everything. It's a little tiny bit of hope that the world isn't as bad as it has to be. It can get better.
Yeah,
We can try to love each other a little better, which is what this is about.
absolutely. Well,
And when you love each other, we practice what Christ talked about in the Our Father, the Golden Rule. And good people everywhere may not know what the Golden Rule is, but that's what they're doing. Treat other people the way I want to be treated by you.
Yeah,
that's it.
it's
I don't
wonderful.
know that I'm going to treat you, Logan, the way you want to be treated. However,
No, it's great talking to you because I do love your book. I'm a big fan of it. For the folks at home, tell them a little bit what it's about. I gave a little synopsis in the beginning, but fill in a couple of blanks without giving away the whole big story.
It's a long novel. It's 120,000 words about. And so if you don't mind, I'm just going to read the back of the jacket.
Sure.
Because this way there are no spoilers in this.
Okay.
At all. I don't want to spoil it for people. When Dawn lost her family, the pain went on, and then a miracle occurred. Following the death at sea of her Irish husband, Michael, Dawn McCarthy must focus on Jason, their only child, who is 6. Having seen his father die, the 5-year-old, he's been 5 when the accident occurred, has been diagnosed with traumatic mutism and no longer talks. Yet when they encounter a wild, spotted-faced, unique common dolphin along Ireland's rugged coastline, the boy takes his first tentative steps toward healing. As Dawn witnesses a powerful bond grow between Jason and the dolphin, she suspects that the mammal is much more than she had first supposed. He's something very different. He's been transformed beyond all recognition. This is a sweeping tale of romance, Irish legend, magic, adventure, a sea story, mysticism. It's a legend in its own time. Dolphin Song takes readers on an unforgettable voyage where those we have loved and lost are not gone forever. Instead, it only takes a leap of faith to find them again. One reader said, a powerful narrative of faith and hope. Today's grim world needs such a story. And the only thing I will say about the book is to read a little tiny bit more. If I can find the last page. Yes. And this is the last 2 sentences. So no giveaway. As the family swam west into a setting sun, Dawn realized it was not the end of her voyage. it was the beginning.
Mhm. Wonderful, wonderful. It's a fantastic book, and it is highly recommended. Like you said, it's kind of an epic tale that is very Irish, and the Irish are such lyrical storytellers. Do you feel that your migration to Ireland has helped you as a writer?
Yes. I've been writing since I was a kid. You know, my a plug a guy. My English teacher and drama teacher, Ron Rabin of Rolling Meadows High School, he was instrumental in motivating me to write. And unfortunately, Ron passed away recently of old age. And so, hi, Ron, wherever you are. And hi, you're a good wife. You need to contact me if you're watching this ever. So, yeah. And then when I moved here, I didn't think I could write at all. I tried a little bit of creative writing. I became the newspaper editor of the Argus at Illinois Wesleyan University, 1977. I worked there 1 year. And while I was doing that, I was getting a bachelor's degree in political science. At the same time, I was finishing my degree in theater arts. So we had to do directing and whatnot, and acting and lighting design, and it all helped. But the man who really, really forced me to write was a fellow by the name of Dr. John Ficca. I haven't from John in quite a while. We were in touch for quite a bit. I think John's quite ill at this point, but hello, John, too. If it hadn't been for John, I wouldn't have done anything. You know, I wouldn't have written. When I moved to Ireland, I started writing creatively. And my first novel, I got lucky. A Lost Scrolls of Newgrange went to number 4 with the Irish Times Young Adult bestseller list.
Wow.
That was followed by a thing called Hotfoot, which was a Faustian tale for young adults about Jerry Larkin, this crazy Irish kid who couldn't kick a soccer ball to save his life. And then he sold his soul to the devil, who's Lucky Lucy. And that's the manager of the newly formed Larkin's Lock soccer team. And there's a bunch of crazy, so that's 2. And that gave me the motivation to carry on. Then I turned to film with Liam O'Neill. He optioned Hotfoot. That's how I got to meet him. We never made Hotfoot. We might do it again soon. We'll see. Yeah, the book's out again. It's been rewritten and remastered and whatnot. All of them have. They're all being released and or re-released. And I keep writing. I'm a very lucky man. I'm now writing full time. I write about 10 hours a day when I'm not doing something like this. And depending, at least 4. That's the idea. 4 to 6 to 8, depending on deadlines and whatnot. Right. And it's exhausting sometimes.
Yeah.
But I love it. There's nothing like it.
Really transports you to another world once you're deep into your storytelling, don't you think?
When Carmel Murray disappeared from my little village of Irish here on the southwest coast of Ireland, I was so stressed out, I had a heart attack. I almost died. I know that people have been through this too. You know, it's awful. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to see her. Certain people in Ireland will not let me see my wife. And that stressed me out so much that I almost had another heart attack. And then I saw my doctor just a couple of weeks ago, my surgeon, Peter Carney, and he gave me the all clear. I'm fine now. And, you know, I play a lot of golf and I do everything he says. I've cut down on smoking. I cut down on drinking and all that kind of stuff. And I feel great. I'm eating well. And I keep writing. And when I'm writing, it's like playing golf or tennis or anything that you love, you know, or musicians. I dive into that book and I forget about everything else except the world that I'm in.
Yeah.
And some days it doesn't go well. And that's what the delete button's for.
Exactly.
You destroy
exactly.
it. You start over again.
Not as satisfying as ripping up a page.
Yes, rip it up.
Or it's
Nice
slamming
try,
down a phone.
Jerry.
All of the old analog things we could do. Slam down a phone, rip up a page. All that's been taken to us. Now we can only go click, click. Our life has
Yeah,
been
you
reduced to
know,
clicks. I found it fascinating that back in the early 80s, you moved to Ireland. Tell me what compelled that move and what it was like for you. I know you've written a book about it as well, a guide to help people move into Ireland.
A Survivor's Guide to Living in Ireland, which is still selling. I've stopped writing it. I used to write it every year, rewrite it and put it up on Amazon. It was out in 2005 and it sold about 35,000 copies so far.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a pretty good book. To answer the question, though, I'm afraid that I fell in love with an Irish lass, Bernie. And yeah, it went well. We have three kids and five grandkids. And we moved to the United States first and lived in Long Island. And I was transferred to Oakland, California, worked for Avis Truck Leasing, of all things, me. Knows nothing about truck, loves engines and stuff. I'm a real petrol head, you know. And yeah, I love airplanes too, because Dad was a pilot for United Airlines. So we moved all over the United States.
And during a very exciting era, being a pilot back then was like being the mayor of the town. It's not like today where, you know, pilots seem to be a dime a dozen. I still think they're the most important person in my life when they're flying a plane. But back when your dad was a pilot, they were afforded such respect.
Yeah, it helps if the pilots know how to fly, you know. So,
exactly.
No, Dad had the right stuff, as they said back then, and he got very lucky. A great career. You know, he passed away when he was 92 years old on the 13th of September, 2021. Another reason why I had the heart attack. I seem to have lost everybody that I love and is important to me and best friends over here. And I mean, it's been an awful 2 years.
The phrase "heartbroken" is really true. When your heart is broken, your heart can break. You know, I feel it for sure.
I was at a music festival for 3 nights, got back yesterday. And I must say, I'm still a little tired. All we did was laugh and sing, and I mean, just carried on. It was great. So, what a time. But no, we were talking about it, and life is filled with a lot of heartbreak. And you like to think that much happiness.
Right.
And if life goes really well, you have that much happiness, and then that much happiness, and then that much happiness.
Yeah.
I gave a talk with a number of other writers and artists and musicians at this thing. It was at the Four Seasons Hotel in Monaghan. And if you're in Ireland next year, go. It's great. It's free. The hotel is, you know, getting into these things is free, these events, these music events and talks. And we were talking about this. And we just talked about the fact that, you know, as I say, you dive into things and you learn to love it.
Yeah.
You're a musician, whatever, and life becomes happy again. You know, that's all. Do something fun.
Absolutely. Life is found in activities. Love is a verb. It's something you do. It's not something you necessarily just feel. Yeah, action is what it's all about.
You know, it's funny that you would say that. I'm reading a thing called the I can never pronounce it, Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu Bible. I've read the Holy Bible about 3 times. I find it very interesting. It's about 750,000 words long. The Gita is 75,000 words long, and it says about the same thing. In that case, this is well, you could call it fiction, I guess. It's written by Krishna, the Hindu god Krishna. And today I was reading one chapter, and he was talking about action. And the summary of it, there's a little tiny summary, is that action is required if you're going to do what he calls the yoga, the prayer. And he's right. If you take an action that's hateful and you're responsible for it, you should go to jail.
Right.
If you take an action that's loving, then you should have karma. Good things should happen to you. And I like to think that now, Logan, I've learned to hate a little bit. I don't like hating at all. There are certain people throughout the world that I've learned to really hate. People that have betrayed karma, for instance.
Right.
I'll never forgive them. Well, I
Right.
might someday, but I've also learned to love a lot more. It's like a potter. I was explaining this the other day to a friend of mine. I read The Prophet recently by Khalil Gibran. And if you've never read it, folks, read it.
It's a beautiful book.
In one of the chapters, and you read this, in one of the chapters, he talks about the fact that we're all sort of like pots that are being turned and then fired. Yeah. Okay. So now you start out with clay and you get a good pot. And what Gibran says is that as for your pot, my pot, your pot, people who are watching this pot, it grows bigger. And then it's fired and it's a huge pot. And then that means that more and more happiness and love can end up to that pot. And that's what's happened to me.
Yeah, wonderful. Actually, I had a Catholic priest. He might have been inspired by the prophet, but he said the same thing, that we're like glasses. We're all filled to our capacity. Only some of us have larger glasses. So it sounds like as you've lived your life, your pot or your glass has become, more full, has become larger, which is great. That's a great way to live your life.
Chalice. I agree. It's like a chalice. You have small chalices and big chalices. Yep. And you hope as life goes on, you get a big chalice.
Exactly.
A Pope's chalice.
Exactly. And it's a great way to look at it. You have two other books we want to talk about today. What is the other one besides Dolphin Song that are out for print, and one is upcoming, I believe, right?
There are two that I'd like to talk about real quick.
Sure. Take your time.
The first one, and I don't have the color thing. I don't know if you have this. You can throw this up online.
Yep.
But it's called Lost Lovers. It's a full color illustrated book about that size. Not very long at all. It's a novella, and it was written for adults. I wanted something different, and it's about it's a love story and an adventure story in New York City and in West Africa. And it's about the protagonist in this case is Grace Upendo. She's 32, and she is a sexually abused Black Swahili African. Okay, so she's Black, and she's lovely. She has the strength of character, and she's haunted by a very dark past. And then, to make it short, he ends up going to, I won't go through the whole thing. It's a short book, but it's great fun. It was hysterically fun to write. And she ends up going to Australia, where she meets Sean Hope. Sean is a minister and a student who is Catholic. He's sent to South Africa back at the beginning of the story to teach and pray with the Swahili people. And he ends up meeting Grace, and they fall in love and they get married. She's only 16, but kids from certain cultures get married early. So she's ready. And he gives her an engagement ring, and long story, but she hates him now. And she throws the ring up and it lands right in the muck, right at her feet, and gets buried. Sean's out of luck, man. And it's written in iambic pentameter in certain places. Okay. It's great fun. And
Sounds
she ends
wonderful.
up going to Australia
It sounds wonderful. Tell me about the illustrations. You said it's illustrated. Did you work with an illustrator or an artist?
It's full color, and a woman by the name of Divya, who is now the managing director of Storylines Entertainment Limited in India. I'm the managing director of the global operation, unfortunately. No, she's created all the illustrations of the book, and she also created the cinematic video trailer for the book. And she's currently working on a 25 to 30 minute pilot of Lost Lovers that will eventually soon go to feature film.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's exciting. Now, the other book you mentioned before, you had that one's actually you got a hardcover there.
Yeah, just last thing on this. If you like Shakespeare, if you like Romeo and Juliet and A Midsummer Night's Dream, you're going to love Lost Lovers, particularly the film, because we have the mechanicals in there, starring me. I play Quinn. And this is the last one.
Yep.
And this is Always Come Home. This is only out for a couple of months now, and I've been so busy I haven't been able to really market it, but we will soon. This has got nothing but 5-star ratings, 4.5 and 5-star ratings so far. It's selling, and I'm really proud of it. Liam O'Neill, right before he died, read this, and he told me, Tom, this should be made into a film of some kind for television, or a feature film, or 1 hour series for somebody like Netflix. And so that's what we're doing. I haven't had time to write the screenplay yet, but I will.
Yeah.
And when it gets done, I'll dedicate that one not to Liam, because I'll dedicate it to somebody special.
Yeah.
You know, somebody I love. And it's inspired by a true story. I won't go into it. In the case of the book, the novel was dedicated to Hector, who's my grandfather, Hector Richards, and Rose, who's my mother, Mary Rose Richards. And they're both in this novel. And also to Anne Tracy, who's an artist that I met here, right here, my beloved friend. Hey, Anne.
Wonderful, wonderful. That sounds like a great book as well. Let's turn again to Dolphin Song. I wanted to ask you a couple of things. Why did you decide to make Jason's ailment mutism? Why did you decide to make him mute?
Okay.
Because he could have gone blind, he could have had a nervous breakdown, he could have attempted suicide. There's lots of very visceral reactions he could have had. But why did you have him lose his ability to speak?
It's no secret. I've been interviewed before, and people have asked this question. It was simple. Many years ago, like 25 years ago, when I was considering the screenplay with Liam, I read it's the culture section of the London Times magazine, not the New York Times. The London Times, right? Yeah. And I picked into this thing, and there's this picture of a mother and a son in the water with 2 dolphins. I said, what's this? And I read it. And it turned out that this woman and her son were in the back seat of a car in England. And if I remember right, they went over a hill, and the car rolled and caught fire. And the father was driving in the front, nobody in the passenger seat. Okay. And the mom turned around and used her feet and legs to bust the glass in the back, and they crawled out. She grabbed her son and they crawled out. And she turned around and the car burst into flames, and she and her son watched the husband and father die this horrible death.
Yeah.
But what happened then was it was like Dolphin Song. I adapted it. She took that kid everywhere to fix him because he suffered. They didn't know what it was called then. He was silent. And now we know it's traumatic mutism. Kids suffered from trauma. And what that kid suffered for, I know, was he suffered from traumatic mutism and post-traumatic stress disorder. And he wouldn't talk. Took him all over the place in England to help the kid. Couldn't talk. Then she read about dolphin therapy. And she took him swimming with dolphins a couple of times. And I think it was the third time he talked.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I thought, wow. Now, it took me years to figure out what's called the spine of the story.
Yeah.
You know, how it should work and the sequences and all the characters.
Yeah.
I've got my hard drive is still filled with old versions of Dolphin Song, the screenplay.
Right.
You know, I talk about ripping out paper. I get halfway through and I think, that's awful. I stopped. And eventually, Liam got me, we sent in an application and we went to a thing called Equinox, Germany. And that's when I found the spine. You sit down with a number of advisors and screenwriters and directors, and they tell you what's right and wrong with the story.
Right.
And boy, was a lot wrong with mine. What is her name? She's a friend of mine. It's gone right now. But at any rate, this wonderful woman sat me down the first day I was there, and he says, Tom, she'd read the screenplay. Tom, this is a wonderful screenplay. I said, thank you, ma'am. She says, there's a problem. And I said, what's that? She says, you do not know how to write. I said, I don't. I know. So she said, pull up a chair, sit down, and I'll teach you. And she did. She's brilliant.
That's wonderful. People who really understand a craft or an art can break it down to its elements and explain it so well that it's almost easy to comprehend, don't you think?
You mean the writing process?
Well, the writing process can be, you know, a big chore, it can be easy, but I think if you are a master at something, explaining that and to another person sometimes is a simple task that'll flip a switch in your brain, that'll give you that aha moment.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe for John Grisham, writing's easy. Writing's never easy for me. It isn't.
Right.
I have a real process. I start with what's called a log line, which is about 25 words, and try to find the story. Then I move to what's called, it depends. If you're writing a screenplay, it's called, well, a beat sheet, which is sort of like each scene and each act laid out. It's a map.
Right.
And if you're writing a novel, it's a chapter breakdown. It does the same thing. Then you write all sorts of other stuff, backstories on each major character, synopses, a treatment, which is 8 to 10 pages long, which maps out the story. Then you start writing, and half the time you're wrong. You got to go all the way back and start over again. One of the guys that I took to court with, I can't remember his name either. He wrote Backdraft, you know, that famous film. Yeah, he was brilliant. And he said, Tom, you know, I've read this thing too. And he says, it really sucks. I said, thank you. He said, don't worry, we'll fix it.
Exactly. Don't hold back, right? Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, exactly. I said, okay, fine. He says, I have the same problem. He says, sometimes I've written stuff, you know, and I said, that's pretty good, but there's a problem with it. He says, I know what I do. There's a Cadillac in here. It's black. I'll make it pink, and that'll fix it. Nope.
That's funny.
Sometimes you write over and over again, and it's like you got a stick in your eye. You can't see the forest from the trees, and you need an advisor or an editor or something to say, this is awful. Change it. And then you do, and you find you're okay.
Yeah, a lot of writing, of course, is rewriting, and people don't realize that, right?
That's very true.
Yeah.
All right. We almost done now, are we?
What's that, my friend?
Are you almost done?
Oh, we've got 10 minutes or so left for sure.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, because I got a Guinness beer on down below, and I mean,
feel free to crack it open and enjoy.
I'll get you one, and I'll parachute it in.
Yeah, sounds good. Slancha, as we like to say. Right here,
since we're taking a little tiny break for me, catch my breath. Yeah, I've got some water here anyway. Is hi to Harsha Ganatra. She's in Lexington, Kentucky. I told you about Carmel Murray and the fact that, you know, we were supposed to get married, and I'm afraid we can't because she can't sign a wedding contract. Well, we talked about it when we first saw symptoms in her. And she said, Tom, I want you to be happy. I don't want you to be lonely. If you find somebody you love like you love me, get married.
Right.
And I met Harsha Ganatra in India a while back, and we're getting married soon.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
So, hey, Harsha, I'll make sure you see this part, babe. Love you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, it seems like your life, like you said, is very, very full. You've done a lot of traveling. You've gone from the United States to Ireland. You've gone to India. And it sounds like you're living a little bit on the road, which is kind of nice.
Right now I am, and I'm getting tired of it. I mean, you know, there are people that, I don't know about you, but I know there are people that live their lives out of a suitcase. And I've got quite a bit of traveling left to do. I've got to go to I'm going to see Harsha in Lexington, Kentucky in about 6 weeks. Then I need to go down to Florida. I've got to find and talk to some Disney execs, Netflix execs. You know, I need to stop in Chicago with Carmel Murray. We're getting her out of jail. We're getting her out of a nursing home, and she's got to go over for therapies and to meet a friend of mine, Paul Lewis, and his wife, Tori. And he's a retired nurse. He and I went to Rolling Meadows High School together. We sang together in choir. And we've got to get her treatment, proper treatment, more medication, proper diagnosis, perhaps some T-cell therapy to untangle the axons in her head, which is the cause of Alzheimer's, dementia, and whatnot.
Yeah.
So life's going to be pretty full for another 2 years. And I'll be honest with you, Logan, I'm retiring.
Right.
I'm not going to quit. I'm going to change careers. I'm going to do something else. Okay. I'll keep my hand in. I'll keep writing.
Yeah.
And what I'm looking for is a young person who's a novelist and maybe a screenwriter, maybe to help me write some other things that I'm just not going to have time to do it. And if I can find somebody, I don't know how they contact you, but maybe they can email you.
Right.
What I will do, I promise, is that let's say we're writing Always Come Home. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's say that's the next novel. It'll say Tom Richards here,
Mm-hmm.
and it will say Logan Crawford in big letters up here.
Yeah.
So I want them to get the credit.
That's very nice of you. Yep.
Well,
but you know, James
of
Patterson does that a lot now. He collaborates with different authors, and it's a
right.
great way to be productive, and it's a great way to use somebody else's mind as well as yours in a collaboration.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
And it's great to deal with other people, when you're writing. I mean, one of the best experiences I ever had is I was a screenplay lecturer in National University Ireland, Maynooth, which is about, I don't know, 7 hours north of where I'm sitting here. And I taught second-year students. It was a 3-year course, and so these were second-year students. And it was required. And I actually had to teach my son, Jonathan, screenwriting. It was a required course. He was in the class with another guy, 30 to 40 other guys, guys and girls, and Black people, and people of color, and just it was everybody. They taught me more than I taught them.
Right.
It was brilliant. Yeah. I just loved it. I don't know that I have time to teach again, but I'd love to get back into teaching sometime.
Is that what you did for most of your career, was teach? I know you did a lot of different things. You mentioned Davis before and all that. That
was my first real job.
Right.
Okay. But when I moved over here, I became a what's called a weighbridge. You find them on farms and whatnot. They weigh you like grain and cattle and everything. And I sold weighbridges. That was my first job in Ireland. It paid 500 Irish punts a month. Man, were we broke.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So there was that. But then I got a job with Heister Automated Systems, which is a division of Heister, the forklift people. I was really grateful for that because they doubled my pay. And then I finally, a couple other jobs, but then I finally opened my own company called EarthNet. And I got to say, we worked our butts off. There were only 3 of us, me and 2 others. Colette Ducey is still a shareholder of Storylines. Hey, Colette. She owns 10%. She always will. And we did terrifically. I mean, we did enough so that I was able to retire. But I moved down here and started to really write. And so I don't think, as I've said, I don't think I'll ever retire. Not really.
Yeah, I think being retired is overrated because I speak to a lot of people, and when they stop doing, they're bored. Like we said, life is an activity, life is an action, life is in motion, and you got to keep going.
And seriously, I mean, because of the heart attack, I've had to cut down my drinking. Not that I ever drank a lot, but you know what I mean. I've got to be careful. But just up here, 6 doors up here, and come over sometime, folks, for a pint of real Guinness.
There's no Guinness better in the world than the Guinness you get in Ireland. So if you've never had a pint in Ireland, you're not living.
Well, 6 doors up, there's a place called Koski's Bar. And when we get done with this, I'll go up there and have a couple of pints, and then come back here and have dinner.
Sounds good.
We go up there, and I meet all my friends, the lads,
Yep.
And it's not a swear word in Ireland. What we do is we stir the shit. We stir the shite. Okay, that's what it's called. And we have great time. Nobody gets drunk. We just sit there. Everybody thinks the Irish people are a bunch of alcoholics. Yeah, some are, just like everywhere in the world.
Exactly.
We just have fun. Exactly. It's just great fun.
I mean, that's what you probably experience most when you move from the United States to Ireland is how gracious Irish people are, how truly charming they are. I mean, when I visited Ireland, I mean, every person I met was just completely endearing.
Where were you, Logan? In Dublin?
I went from Dublin to Galway and traveled some cities, to Westport
Good.
in between. Yeah.
You got into a bit of rural Ireland.
Yes, yes.
And
I met Mrs. Kilbane on a train from Dublin to Galway, and she was lovely.
Iris is a small village. There are only 60 to 65 people here permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we got 2 pubs and 1 petrol station, gas station, kind of, and a couple of hardware store, sort of, and a post office and a church. That's it.
Yep. Have you seen?
I love it.
Have you seen the movie Banshees of Inisherin?
Not yet, and I want to because that was nominated.
Well, yeah, you have to see it because it's about 2 guys who are best friends who go to the only pub in their little rural town in Ireland, and they have a falling out, and that's all I'll tell you. But it's great. It sounds a little bit like your town. There's so few people, literally, you know everybody by name.
Logan, I'm a poor author. I've got no money. That's on a real expensive streaming thing. You got to pay for it. No, I want to wait till it comes out free.
Well, eventually it'll be on Netflix. It'll be free, hopefully. Yep, for sure.
Not Netflix. I can afford Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been great talking to you, Tom. The name of the book is Dolphin Song. It's about a little boy who loses his ability to speak after his dad dies, but it's about a whole lot more. It's about recovery. It's about love that is endearing and enduring, and it's about faith. And Tom has put together a masterful work that we're looking forward to see in film form. But before that, buy the book. I downloaded it myself and have thoroughly enjoyed it. And Tom, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you here today on Spotlight.
And may I ask, will you put up the new in our new website?
Absolutely. You can email me after the show. We'll put up your website and everything.
I would hope that people would enjoy this.
Yep.
But, you know, if we make any profit on Dolphin Song and the other books, something like 10% will go to charities. In Ireland, it'll go to the the RNLI, the Lifeboat Association that saves people at sea. I don't know. There are so many charities around the world. If it makes a real hit and we make a lot of money, I'm going to do what Warren Buffett did. Not that I have his money and John Gates. I'm going to take all my wealth, except for some money for the kids and Carm and Harsh and whatnot, and I'm going to put it in trust. And I've got a couple of people who've already volunteered, and we're going to take applications. And if you qualify, if you need a loan, or if you need a place to stay, if you're a single mom looking for a job, we'll help to find you a job. If you need more education, we'll give you free education. We'll give it away. Wonderful. And if, like Buffett, if the trust is big enough, it'll be sort of self-fulfilling. You know, it'll make enough interest and dividends that it will never run out of cash. And, you know, I'll die and the trustees will die, but it'll keep going. You know, we can help more and more people. That's what we hope. That's our dream.
Well, it's a wonderful dream. And again, appreciate you sharing everything you've talked with us about today here on Spotlight. And I wish you lots of good luck. And I think you're going to have it, Tom. I just had that feeling about this book and about this project. So thanks again for joining me here today.
As I say to my Pakistani and Indian friends, thank you, sir. And may Allah and our Lord bless you all.
Thank you so much. And I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.